chance to hear it, so let her tell it. People on the streets say Sabrina speaks. Tune into the show, she will let you know. Tell all your friends and family. Real talk is no joke. You get the news straight up from grassroots and concerns. You hear some people gone. So tell all your friends to tune in to
Good evening, Cayman. I'm Sabrina Turner, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks, your daily dose of clarity, truth, and community insights. Every weekday from 5 to 6:30 p.m., we're tackling the issues that affect you, from national headlines to grassroots concerns. Whether you're in traffic or winding down your day, this is your chance to hear it straight and speak your truth. So buckle up, Cayman. We're not holding back.
This is the show. We gotta let you know. Now we got to go.
And now here's Sabrina.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Sabrina Speaks, the podcast where voices rise, stories unfold, and inspiration takes center stage. I am your host, Sabrina, and it is a pleasure to be here with you on this Tuesday. I hope you're all having a good day, and to all of you who are out there serving us on the front lines, thank you for your service. We know you put yourselves in the line of danger every day. And I want you to know that persons in our uniformed services, definitely all of those frontline staff, and definitely those in the medical industry who work around the clock. Thank you for your service. It is indeed a pleasure to be here with you today on this Tuesday. And I wonder if people are realizing that today is National Dog Day. Yeah, it's not only Tuesday, but it's also National Dog Day. But hold on, I got some pictures I'm going to share with you, a few stories as well. I just want to apologize. Yesterday, something wonky was going on in the background, and I think it was the whole streaming platform, obviously beyond my control. And I think the show was in 3 parts. So my humble apologies, that was beyond my control. But we're hoping that everything works out perfectly today and that the entire show will go off without a hitch. I want to thank again Sammy Jackson, for being able to stay with us. We went over 7 o'clock yesterday evening. Amazing. Your participation is always welcome. And if you're loving the content shared in this space, please like, share, subscribe, and follow so that you don't miss an episode. And we're streaming live on all CMR, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram platforms. And you can also follow me. Yes, I'm on YouTube, and it's at Sabrina Speaks, the number 12, and also on Facebook. That's Sabrina Turner, community activist. And I want to thank all of my new followers and subscribers. Yes, this space is yours, and truly, truly from the bottom of my heart, I really love you, and I appreciate all that you've done. I thank you all for your support. But today I'm pretty much solo. There's no guest, and you can see by the topic of today's show that I'm going to be giving you some insight of what life is like post the House, post Parliament. And I'm going to tell you it was derived from an article that came out and is in wide circulation with my former colleague and the former Speaker of the House, looking at new ventures into the real estate industry. And, when the suggestion was made and it came across, and I'm like, okay, yeah, who best to speak about it? Because I'm living about it. But today I invite you to participate. You're welcome to give your feedback and join into the discussion. The 936-8255 is the number to call in and join me here. And I would be pleased to engage with you on this, definitely. So yeah, before we go into roll call, because we got one student that commented, and I'm seeing all of you who are taking your time to get on. But it is National Dog Day here, and that's national all over the world for all of your pet moms and dads and everyone who has a furry friend for like a buddy in your home. Happy National Dog Day today. I do have some in my home, and I got two, and I'm pleased to introduce Bella and Chance. My two latest are my they're the loves of my lives. One loves me more than the other, though. I'm going to be honest. This is Bella, and she's something. Trust me. I introduced them both when we featured one dog at a time, but I thought it was only fitting because today it's National Dog Day to share a little insight with them and their attitudes and their personalities. She does have another name. Those who are very close to the family and friends, they will know she has another name. And but little Bella here, I was sitting on the couch. That's when Chance had recently come home, and he was just a wee little thing, and I had him on my chest. And she was the center of attention. She got all of the attention until Chance came home. And of course, he needed a lot more attention at the time. And she just went and she perched herself over on the other couch where she could just get dead on to see me. And what she's looking there, like I can actually read these expressions like, what the hell? What are you doing? I could have been there, but this thing that you brought here now is taking up all of your time, and I am left on the couch. Yeah, that's the kind of look that she's giving me. But she does have an attitude. She loves to dress up, for the record. She enjoys dressing up. And that's her little sundress. She likes to put on this during the holidays, or if we have friends coming over, she likes to dress up. Now she'll have shirts and a nice little blouse with cute little sayings on it. But whenever she knows we're gonna have like a barbecue or friends over, she knows she has to pull out her best. And she has a couple of these, but this is really her favorite. Christmas, she even has her little Christmas outfit, and she is something, let me tell you. But yeah, that is Bella. She's a Yorkie. I got her locally from Karina Chisholm, and she's been with the family for a while. But exactly what you're seeing there, she is a Bella. She is full of attitude. And yeah, she's the one that whenever she goes up on Eric's chest, her head is on my pillow. Her butt's on my pillow. Her head is on his chest and butt is on my pillow. Never fails. She doesn't like me until he's not around. But the one who has definitely stole my heart is Chance. Now he's ride or die. He's my boy. He gives me all of the attention in the world. I can't go anywhere in the house without him. Yes, I'm here, but he's arguing downstairs or on the back patio. And, if I'm in the kitchen preparing a meal or just getting a snack for myself, he's literally sitting on my feet. You have to constantly be careful. If I'm sitting at the dining table, he's there. He is just really lap dog on steroids. He is a lap dog on steroids. He loves a lot of attention. And just to let you know, I was trying to get their attention to capture this moment, to let you know in real time what I go through. I always tell my friends and family that I have a lot of traffic when I'm coming to work. Really, that's my traffic. I took that just before going live, and I was sitting at the counter, and I just to catch their attention. Now look at the expressions on their face. One is like, "What the hell's wrong with you? You got COVID now?" And the other one's like, "What the hell?" Yeah, the expressions of their faces are priceless. So yeah, that was the look that I got to capture that image. They love the beanbag, and because they were just there clowning around, and I wanted to catch a picture, I just sat there and just cleared my throat. I did it like 3 times. And that's the expression that I got from Bella and Chance. So you tell me what you're reading on their face, but I see, oh God, she's got COVID. Mama's got COVID. But yeah, little fun and joke, a little humor there on National Dog Day. So those are some of my doggy stories that I was excited to share with you today. And I hope that you again get to see a little bit of my joy here in my personal space. And it's a pleasure to share that with you. Yeah, so there we go. Marshall, hi. Good to see you. Connie, I know you were like Nancy Drew looking for me yesterday, but one thing with you, you never gave up. You never stopped. And at the beginning, I explained what had happened. It was something going on in the background. I didn't know what happened, but we were able to sort it out. And thank you for sticking with me. It is a pleasure. Hi, Miss J. birthday girl. You're still celebrating. I'm sure you got a couple more days. Hi, Jimbo. Yeah, today is National Dog Day, Jim. And I was just sharing my stories with everybody. It's always good to see you. Hi, Jaren. Greetings from Barbados. Can't wait to be back home soon. I know, but you guys should be having a blast over there, Jaren. And if you, Ventisha was supposed to come on and give us an update. She promised me that. So, Jaren, if you can just tap her and tell her, I'm going to call her anyhow. But it would be good to hear a feedback from you guys, how things are going on there. And of course, feel free at any time to call, and we can definitely get you on so we can get some live updates with what's going on there in Barbados. I hope you guys are having a ball. Based on what I'm seeing on social media, though, Barbados is definitely throwing it down. God, I think whoever's going to get who the baton is going to be passed to next is going to, the mark is set high. The bar is going to be set very high. But yeah, Jaren, it's always good to see you. And I hope that you're having, a good time over there. Connie, what are you saying? I can tell you I was miserable. I know. I'm sorry. It was, I kind of had a little panic attack because for me on this side, everything was going fine. Sammy and I were engaging in meaningful discussion, but I thought it was strange because I had put some pictures up with some of the artwork in Barbados, like some nice leather slippers and handbags and jewelry. And I said, Connie, I know this one is for you. And then I didn't see you answer. And I said, something is wrong. So yeah, a girl, I know something was up, but thank God we got it sorted. You found us after all. And by all accounts, the conversation went very well. We went until, of course, after 7. And I'm hoping that what we discovered yesterday from that conversation with development, as it pertains to planning and all that good stuff, that it will not end here. I make that a promise. We will continue, because if you're not in that field, if you're not in that space, I can see why it would have probably gone over persons' heads. And I get it. But today I'm solo, and I'm going to give you a glimpse of what life is like in this new chapter. As you can see, one phase of it, it's how you embrace it. But just a quick heads up, the content you're about to hear, including any discussions or opinions from myself and you, the participants, is intended solely for general information and entertainment purposes. It is not a substitute for professional legal, medical, or financial advice. And I encourage you to consult with a qualified professional for specific concerns. And Sabrina Speaks disclaims all liability for any decisions or actions taken in reliance on the information presented here. So yes, girl Connie, it was a relay yesterday. So just getting straight into things, there are a lot of things that are going on locally, and I know this space is unique for bringing informed discussions and hoping we can share, and I can give you insights based on my former experience, my past experience, and of course, your participation is key. But for as long as I can recall, just getting straight into things, my life has been about giving of service. I raised up in a home where going to church was a norm, and being very active in the church, visiting shuttings and stuff was a part of who I am. And that obviously transcends with me in my adulthood, whether from it being the one of the foundations why I took on nursing as a nurse. And then I still went ahead as an immigration officer to business owner. That led then for me being in a noble role of being a member of parliament. And that was thanks to the people of Prospect. And, my purpose has always been to honestly lend a voice, not only to the conversations that matters, but also for my community. And that became a part of me. And I'm hoping that this episode of Sabrina Speaks, I would like to talk about something that hits very close to home, that was sparked by the comments that I'm seeing after that article went out. And in the 2025 general elections, I faced a new reality. And even though it was my first term and my last term, when the people voted for change based on the results I've accepted, contrary to what others and the reality is. But after serving as a minister and a representative, my journey in elected office came to an end. And it was a humbling moment. I'm going to be very honest with you, but one that forced a hard and honest look at what comes after. And so, pretty much when I'm looking at the comments from that article, what does life look like after the close of the house is pretty much the title of today's episode. And how do you actually move from what was so center of a national life back to the community you love, but in a different capacity? And what does that mean for our country? And when those who you've served, you're no longer at that table. And this isn't, in all honesty, just a personal story. It's my intent here this afternoon is to look at the very foundation of our small democracy. And it's a conversation of resilience, reputation, and the enduring nature, to be honest, of public service. It's an eye-opener and one that you can learn from, but it remains at the core of humility. So I am inviting you to join in as I get this opportunity to what I can categorize as pulling back the curtain on this topic. And I will share my own reflections, and the phone lines, as you know, are open so that I can also hear from you. And my aim is to let's talk about what happens when the door actually closes, the final ballot is counted, and the results are read, and how we can find the courage to walk through that next door, that next opportunity. It is quite sobering from how it impacts your emotions, how it impacts your entire self-worth, from difficulties in finding work and you're on the job hunt. And then it goes back to whether or not you can go back or returning to your previous career, and social and personal implications that it can have on you, from subjected to even public scrutiny to, at times, a sense of isolation. And maintaining some sort of public service, from community to charity work, straight down to leadership. But that also goes down to how you're embraced, either by your former colleagues, by your very own community, and sometimes even friendships fall on the wayside. That makes you look at whether or not what you called friendships were even genuine. This is not a plea for help. This is not a begging for a hand up. This is just putting it into context as what a true life is in surviving in a small environment such as ours, post-political life. Because I read the comments, but you have to survive. And that does not come easy. I have been blessed, in all honesty, that this opportunity has presented itself to me. But I want, and my aim here today is to just break it down, because we have a lot of maturity as a society. We have a lot of maturity that is needed in, one, the respect for those who are in political office, how you respect the role as voters. And if you don't feel that once they're elected to political office, that they are worth the respect, then you need to wonder why you voted for them. Because it doesn't make sense. And I feel that the whole circle of where we're evolving, and we are unique as a jurisdiction because we're so close-knit and we're so accessible, but the risk remains the same as the climate around someone in political office is changing. And we will see that. We're seeing despotism, we're seeing anger, but that myth about everybody joining into politics is there for their own selfish gain. I'm going to be here to refute that when it comes to me, because I'm telling you, there are a lot of persons who are willing to put themselves up for service and to give of service that are not in for self, that are not corrupt. But there's a sobering end to all of this. And I'm hoping that with my reality in breaking it down to you today, just because it was sparked by one article, if I don't help myself, then who will? Where is the balance? But at the end of the day, yes, Jim, it's a reality. Hi, CE Banks. Good evening. Happy Tuesday to you. We have to look at the practical realities. And, there's one thing after acknowledging the results, and I will never forget it. The results came in that night, and you had your supporters, your family members there, and you could look at the trajectory of where it was going. And you're so tired anyhow from the campaign. And in my case, I think I was even quadruple tired because I never stopped. And all that day we were there, and you kind of see where it was going. But then the results for me were so close, it was hard to call it. And then it was official. A difference in 16 votes. Who was not crying? It was a state of shock. I'm going to be honest with you. We were outside the constituency office. 33 Marina Drive was the prospect constituency office. And even though we were outdoors, I saw people crying. You could hear a pin drop in shock, in awe. People were confused. The amount of message I got that extended days afterwards, they were more worried about what's going to happen. No, let the dust settle. You'll be okay. Normally how it works, you're well taken care of. You guys ran as a group. That's how life is. I'm going to be very honest with you, family. I was so tired. I got up and I addressed the crowd that was there, and I thanked them because they were my loyalists. They are still loyalists to this day. And I addressed them, I thanked them, I reminisced, and I said, life continues. The people have spoken. And some were saying, no, you need a recount, you need to do this. It was new for me. And I had been featured on the CMR show for quite some time, a number of times. And I said, if it was even a difference of one vote, Sabrina was going to accept the results of the election. I know that there were some questionable things, and God knows, the next day we found out that there was an empty ballot box. To this day, I was not even given the privilege, the respect to get a proper explanation from the elections department. When I became aware of this empty ballot box that will always remain a mystery, and it will go down in history, contrary to what was said, I then asked, what about a recount? And the whole bureaucracy that was entailed with that is that once the boxes are sealed and your observers accept the results, the only how those recounts could have happened would have been through a court order. I said, nope, not today, not doing it. But when I got the call that there was a ballot box found at the Prospect Primary School, I immediately got out, got dressed, and where my house is, it's less than 3 minutes away from the school. By the time I got there, I saw the elections office car driving out, no police escort, no nothing, nothing, absolutely nothing. I don't know to this day what the contents were. I can only take their word for it. And it's between the officials and God. But what I'm saying was, for an election that close, understanding that that should have questioned the very results because of what had unfolded less than 24 hours. Many people reached out to me and said that warranted a recount without you having to go through the normal process. Like I said, I was not challenging the result because I know we both had supporters on both sides. There were 3 persons running in Prospect. But the question around what transpired and why that box and the 16 votes all being the difference of all spoiled ballots, I can only depend on my observers to tell me what that meant. I, for one, moved on. I had very strong supporters who went about asking what was the true process. They even went, who do you write a letter to, and all that sort of stuff. To tell you that it didn't cross my mind, yes, it did. I knew there were high stakes up for the last election. And I prayed and I begged and I spoke before leaving official cabinet that there were serious concerns and accountability and how things were seen. But who am I? Anything comes from someone who is not the winner of an election will be deemed as, oh, sore loser. No, let me declare officially, I'm not a sore loser. I've accepted it. The people of the electoral district of Prospect did not fail, Sabrina. The system did. I am not asking you, I'm telling you. The people of Prospect did not fail, Sabrina, in the elections. The system did. And despite the observers giving their reports, people know exactly what I'm saying. They know exactly what I'm saying. And for anyone who had to follow what instructions were given, I forgive you. Because the place that I am in right now is priceless. But it leaves room to question, really and truly, where the system is going for the future. Single member constituencies and the numbers have brought into question. And focusing on life post politics was exactly where my headspace was. But to say that I did not question if something went wrong, yes, but I got on my knees and personally, I have forgiven everyone. The country has to move on. The lines and the numbers were so close. It's proved that Prospect wanted change. They have to live with that now. And I am here to support whatever government in this space. It is the responsible thing to do. Because if they fail, we all fail. But what we need to do is to be honest with ourselves in how easy it is to win an election based on single member constituencies. The players may change, Sabrina Speaks family, but the game will remain the same. And you cannot blame anybody but yourself if you're a registered voter in the Cayman Islands for the outcome of an election, but yourselves. If you're as cheap as a load of marl, that's the representation you are going to get. If you're as cheap as a 6-pack of bear, that's the representation you're going to get. And there's a saying that goes, the one who pays the piper plays the song. And if you allow yourself to be bought, you're allowing and giving permission to be sold. But that is why I'm so happy that this space presented itself, because now I am at a good place. Where I'm at mentally and emotionally right now with life after politics, I'm still trying to navigate it. And it's hard to even explain when you've given 4 years of service. It's not bitter, but just getting back and you're tired. You're tired. And I took that time off to get back centered. I did. And then with all of the rumblings in the community, and the tongue is the most powerful thing. And we're talking about immigration reform. Yes, it's needed. I agree, it is. But we need to be careful about how we sit down and lambast one another. We understand that politics is adversarial. It's a lot of drama. Drama, not as in drama. It's a lot of theatrics. It's a lot of acting. It's the one who has the best slangs and you get a laugh and you do that. But what you don't realize, friends, it's your lives that they're convincing you to vote for them that is going to be impacted by the very decisions that they make. So are you all about a clown? Are you all about how much you can dig of sometimes so much lies, misinformation? Because when those last ballots are counted and you have elected those individuals, it's too late. You have to live with that. You do. I will be reading some of these comments as we go along, just so we can follow along. But I don't want anybody to think that this is confessions. I am actually bringing you context to what life is like living in a society the size of the Cayman Islands post-election. Because to bring it into context, anyone who has lost an election, from what I'm seeing in this environment right now, you're either blackballed, you're barred from getting a job, public perception remains at the forefront, scrutiny doesn't go away, definitely. And if you're not strong or have a higher power looking out for you, they will suffocate you if you don't march to the beat of their drum. But yet we're saying we're all for one. Good afternoon, caller. You're live on Sabrina Speaks.
Hi, Sabrina. Good afternoon. This is Patricia Bryan calling. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you, Patricia. First time I think you're calling into our show. Welcome.
Actually, is I've been watching for a few episodes, though.
Thank you.
I was just waiting to see. You're welcome. I was just waiting to see if you would have come up with, a show of this topic, because of course I had a few questions. I wasn't sure whether you were going to appear on the other evening show there, as they're having candidates on who weren't successful. But I just had a few questions, and I just wanted, for disclaimer's sake, I just want to say this is not in any way to speak against any person, whether yourself or the successful candidate in your district or any other candidates who were successful or unsuccessful. I just had a few questions that I was just wondering how you were feeling and how you approach these situations, and also curious. People were wondering certain things, and it might help to just shed some light. So one of the first things I wanted to ask, because I know you were a part of a particular party. And being that you weren't successful, I was wondering whether you were offered a post, in the new administration, and if not, why do you think that may have been?
As of the second, nothing has been offered to me. And I don't know what the reason is. We do have a coalition government, but by perception, I would hate to be the one to cause an unrest because people can't put their egos aside.
Right. And do you think what do you think you could have or would have done differently? Well, that's two questions, right? What do you think you would have done differently or likely could have done differently during the elections and leading up to the election? Because as you rightly said, I know you were pretty popular, and many people were hoping that you would be successful. But we also know the successor came very close in the last elections, also to your numbers. So is there anything for you that you think you may have could have done different or should have done different that
Based on doing a post analysis, there is really nothing that I could do different in a sense where it was shrouded by a campaign of being lambasted as a bunch of quitters. However, in hindsight, people are now seeing exactly what that meant. Knowing what money was being flooded in the constituency, I wouldn't do anything different because then that would be threading along a threshold that would have been illegal.
do you think that the elections law needs changing or upgrading?
An amendment is required and make it clear, but it takes political will. I sat in there and there were presentations made to ourselves when we were in caucus, and it never went anywhere because one of the big drawbacks was campaign financing. And instead of, if they weren't pleased with what recommendations were made, and this is just broad brush speaking, I'm not speaking anything that is confidential. Like how I address the Pharmacy Act, there was one particular section in regards to who could own pharmacies in the Cayman Islands that I understand was one of the biggest drawbacks in why the pharmacy bill was never updated, or it was passed and never enacted. And when I got into political office, I just did not change that, but I got more public participation. What I'm seeing with what held up the last administration is that they were more concerned with campaign financing, and therefore we threw out the baby with the bathwater. But to say that it is not woefully inadequate, that it needs to be addressed, yes, it does. And it's a simple fix. Some of the recommendations that were made were even how campaign signs and stuff, how long they can be up. I mean, now with social media and digital platforms, to say that you can't do certain things on election day is a joke. I mean, you have mobile voting that's going on and campaign signs are still up, and people are still in the case where even chamber debates were still ongoing and people had already cast their ballots, people were traveling and so forth. So there are some simple things, low-hanging fruit, as we refer to them as, that can actually change, that would modernize our current system. But it doesn't matter what our legislators put in legislation, caller. If you do not have fair oversight and persons holding those laws accountable or enforcing the laws, then it's all for naught. We would just have a law and nothing is being done.
So it sounds like you definitely feel that it could use an overhaul.
Of course.
Various
Yes,
areas.
everyone will tell you that. Mhm.
Yeah, I personally think that our, for the development and growth of our islands, that our election law is still lagging and in various areas for different reasons.
Mhm.
And so I just wanted to get your feedback on it as someone who was actually in the midst of it all.
Yeah. I was there.
And,
I saw the presentation. In 4 years, I never missed a meeting. I never missed a presentation. So yeah, but it never got anywhere because campaign financing was the hang up.
and that was a concern of other members
The
that could
majority.
have been. And how do you think being a female politician and incumbent candidate, do you think that could have affected anything based on the fact that here again you were having, I'd like to just use the words respectfully, a strong contender in your area, being that his numbers were close to yours the last time, and I know you had another female candidate running against.
I think it
also.
definitely diluted it with small
Yeah.
member constituencies, to be honest. And what I'm seeing happening is people, they'll tell you, because I know that one of the candidates in the area was very disappointed based on what was said when they were out canvassing. And of course, looking at the results now, there were a lot of untruths being told. Oh, I'm going to support you. I'm going to vote for you. And of course, when the numbers come in, it's something totally different. And it was no different with me. In my face, I was told, yes, you are the one for it. But I know that they didn't vote for me at the end of the day. And in some cases, blatantly, they wanted to, but I was not able to meet their requirements. And I'm just being very respectful. And
Right.
I didn't buy any votes in 2021. And that's not who I am. And I was not prepared to buy any votes in 2025.
And I can respect that. Do you think you could have been, while you were in office, do you think we had, how many? We had yourself, Mr. Ebanks Wilkes,
Miss Heather,
Miss Heather, we had Miss Barbara.
mhm,
Who else was there?
Miss Julie.
That all, Miss Julie, yes. Do you think you could have been any more forthcoming, aggressive is the word I want to put out there without without saying aggressive in an aggressive manner, but do you think you could have been a bit more aggressive in terms of a bigger fighter out
Really?
there?
Interesting question, because that got me in trouble with the operational arm in government. I'm a very principled person. I believe in accountability. I do not actually like to see people wasting time, especially when it's deliberate. And my personality was one who was hard to read. And instead of persons looking at what I was saying and how important it was to meet tasks, which is what the people have elected me to do, to bring things over the finish line, that was taken out of context. And I was told in the most diplomatic way, sometimes rude, that I must stay in my lane. And I was even accused of political interference when all I was asking for deliverables. So to say aggression, to tell you,
use the word more passionate and
I couldn't get more passionate. It was misread that I was stuck up, that I think too much of myself, that I'm too proud. I don't speak like Caymanian. I dress too well. I like to pose for too much pictures. Yeah, those were some of the reasons that was thrown my way. So as a female, how do you balance that act when a lot of things that was being said were actually said by other females? You're in a male dominant society. You're already coming in as a more weaker of the two genders, yet you're supposed to survive in the environment. And then you have to maintain this composure that you smile. It's almost like a duck. You see this swan and this duck on a lake, and they're paddling like crazy, 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 but you're not seeing what's beneath the surface. And that's the best I can actually describe it, because you're not allowed to show your emotions. And people just lack thereof the understanding of the role of a member of parliament. And sometimes you have to just do what you got to do and just pray. But I'm telling you, the universe, caller, prepared me for this. That's not for me. That environment is not for me. Because unless we educate the people and let them understand the role of an elected MP, this thing of weighing who you are and your representation based on the handout and that sort of stuff, especially during election time, we're going to continue to see the erosion of our results. We're going to not have persons, and I don't mean to use this loosely, but for the context in which I'm trying to get this across, we're going to see quality of persons standing for political office no more, because they're going to say it's not worth it.
So the other thing I have, I'm not sure if there is a order of seating in the parliament. I've noticed
Order of what?
there is of seating.
Seating?
With ministers.
Oh,
Seating, yes,
protocol.
SEATI, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that, the front on the left-hand side, the front row is the premier, the deputy premier, and then
In parliament, you mean?
Right, yes, in parliament.
Yeah, members of cabinet usually sit to the front.
Right. So I'm not sure if some ministries have a more authoritative position than others. So who would come after the deputy premier? I'm
No,
not sure,
that option, normally for the seating in parliament, the very first seat, which to the end closest to the speaker, is the premier, deputy premier, of course, because there are times those two have to speak. And if you look at who's behind the premier, you will have like the deputy governor and the attorney general. That is strategic there, because there are many times that they may have to actually speak to one another, and it just makes sense. All the other seats to the front row are usually is set for members of cabinet. But we have noticed now, because we have increased the number of constituencies, where the front row now, you actually have one minister sitting in the back. If you look at the composition now of parliament, there is a minister sitting on the back, like where Mr. Bush, former Mr. McKeever Bush, used to sit. I think Minister Miles is now in the back. So there's not enough seating on the very front row in the government that all cabinet ministers are sat in the front, because of just how the space is. And I think, we had that case as well. There's never been enough seats, because I can recall, John, he was parliamentary secretary and he came back. Yeah, how it is, you can't go by it right now, because normally ministers are on the front bench. But because of us expanding in our representation, the parliament's design does not have enough for 8 cabinet ministers and the premier to be all seated in the front. I hope that answers your question.
Right. Yeah. Well, what I wanted to get to also, now we know Georgetown itself. What is considered Georgetown?
Mm-hmm.
Prospect and Red Deer are also considered Georgetown.
Mm-hmm.
And what I have always wondered, and maybe you can enlighten me on this, as why we had 2 ministers, and again, this is not to be disrespectful towards you or previous minister, also of Georgetown. It's just a curiosity to me why we had 2 ministers, but was there any reason that Georgetown didn't get as much advantages as some other districts during the last administration compared to, say, West Bay or Northside? In terms of, I guess Georgetown got the revitalization downtown, and
I want to make sure I understand you. The last composition of the government, you had myself and Georgetown Central.
Right. Yeah. So I consider that 2 ministers for Georgetown.
Right?
So what I was wondering is, in terms of what Georgetown, I'm going to say what Georgetown didn't get. And I'm really talking about affordable housing, and I get to understand. I'm not sure, but I get to understand you under your ministry or under your constituency, there was some properties purchased for parks, and I know the Marine Mariners Cove property was purchased to convert that into a type of park thing for health and wellness, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of affordable housing and that those necessary social things, that do you have any idea why Georgetown may not have gotten those benefits as opposed to some other districts, especially districts who had already had some of those benefits and were
it boiled down to the
able-
lack thereof of property. Personally, I spoke with the Georgetown Central representative because we did not, when it came to those topics and access to affordable housing, we all looked at that holistically and what properties were available in the district of Georgetown, which we removed single member constituencies at that time. We just looked at Georgetown as one, which as ministers, that's what you need to do. That's mature, being mature.
Right.
And the properties that were identified in Georgetown, which would have been on the back road of the Linford Pearson bypass, there was a huge property from Raven Avenue, both sides of the road. But when government went ahead and looked at making the necessary inquiries, the price skyrocketed, was what was communicated to me. And that was also in support by the central member at that time. And we continued to look for things within town that could have actually yield some government housing, but without private-public partnership, because I know I had been approached by a developer, whether or not government would have been inclined to have partnered with that development company because they were getting ready to purchase or build properties. But where they were located, there's always something. If government would have worked with them to possibly have given some kickbacks or not kickbacks, assist with rezoning, and it would have been a win-win for everyone. Those talks, because myself being the Minister of Health, but first priority is making sure that we could just deal with this holistically. Those talks were then passed on to the relevant ministry, to the best of my knowledge, and that's where it ended. But it's not to say that we didn't fight to get more housing for town. The cost and what budget's constraint hit us, it was more feasible to purchase properties at that time if land was not already purchased where they were located during my time. I hope that clears that up.
right.
Sorry, don't mean to cut you. There were also LPPs, land for public use, that were sprinkled in the constituency between Red Bay and Prospect. Those were also being viewed to not make any more parks, but to possibly put like a duplex, or based on the size, consider whether or not we could do transitional housing so that they would actually blend in with the environment. Those were also discussions in place, since we couldn't get like this whole area for just like a settlement, like a whole government scheme housing. We thought that would encourage person to make them feel more inclusive. It's not like you putting them on a reserve. That we could have also looked at LPPs that were already owned by government, that could be developed for single family use.
So I have been reliably informed, and I'm just going to use that term loosely. I'm sure you'll be able to confirm or deny. But I have been reliably informed that under the previous administration, the Progressives, there had been land purchased in pretty much the same area that you were alluding to, off Linford Pearson Highway, there in the back behind Randike Gardens, and off of Fairbanks Road there, somewhere in that area, that was zoned for affordable housing, and also land behind Old Cox Lumber on Eastern Avenue, that I understand is zoned for affordable housing also. But what bears me the question is, couldn't funds, and like I said, it's nothing directed at either then ministers, either yourself or the previous minister.
You're just having an open conversation, caller.
Yeah. So what I have questioned, right, is couldn't the funds that were used to purchase properties for the park in Central Park, or the other properties that have been purchased around, let's say, the district of Georgetown, right? Let's not even focus on any particular property, but other properties that were purchased for other purposes, couldn't those funds have been focused and put into trying to set some form of affordable housing up for Georgetown? Because we see West Bay had, I think West Bay is on its third development of affordable housing.
They have to redo Apple Blossom, and we already heard the fiasco with that. Not to get too much into the development, and I'm not trying to avoid anything, to be honest. But I can tell you, sitting there at the table, it was consensus. And under the National Housing Development, we were promised 100 houses, I think, per year. That never happened. But again, you can only base on the reports that the relevant minister feeds back. But to say that it wasn't an active task of those representatives from Georgetown and other areas to make sure that was possible, that would be an understatement, because we did fight to see where we could locate property. Now, I notice here, you may not be seeing it, K-Mankind has posted a question: what happened to the Courts Road, which is owned by government? That was where we had, I think, those metal homes back in the day. And that, yes, is still owned by government, to the best of my knowledge. That's what you were talking, right? Yeah, that was brought up as well. But then again, it was then earmarked, I think, for possible the relocation of other government departments, because, you know, at the time we were juggling a lot of things with the dump, the waste to energy plant, and DEH needs a home. I know I was struggling to find even a home for them. And that was one of the suggested locations. And again, just to give you a semblance of what it takes, what happens in that area, you're negotiating with other ministers, and you just have to rely on the information that the operational arm of government, civil servants, tell you. And then there's a process in which, when you're advocating, let's say, for Georgetown, when you're advocating to say, let's earmark courts and let's put proper affordable housing at Courts Road, since it was already government and it was already an area that had government housing in the past that unfortunately failed our people. Things may have changed, why the zoning may have changed. You look at the flood, because you know how the water running now is different because of development. And there are a number of factors that could change why that property would not have necessarily been favorable at the time. And I'm going back off of recollection, but I know that at the time, that was being looked at as a possible location or relocation of DEH operational side, not landfilling, because of the footprint where they actually occupy. It made more sense to have relocated them, because that is semi-industrial commercial. So I think that is where the primary focus then was, to, instead of just being in central town for residential communities, to have looked more up Prospect area, which is why we went on that quest of trying to locate property in the area that would have still been looked at as Georgetown, but along the east-west arterial.
Well, I want to say, Sabrina, is, and I wasn't in the room, and I've never been in the room, so that's why I was asking you the questions. But, you know, I think of Tampa going through a major revitalization in their city, where they have converted. I mean, we don't have this in Georgetown, but they have converted depleted homes
and buildings,
entire office spaces and buildings to affordable housing for their, you know, for their citizens and residents. And there's been a lot of properties in Georgetown that I feel that could have been,
Caller,
addressed
it takes
also. And
political will, not to cut you short.
yes,
It takes
yes,
political will. And this is
I
another
realize
thing.
that.
This is another thing that not only political will, but you also have to get funding. And even
Right,
though I may have been a representative for Georgetown, but elected by the electoral district of Prospect, I could not demand, unless I got consensus from everyone in my caucus and cabinet, to say
right,
this is what we're going to do with, example, Court Road site. That is up to the minister responsible for that responsibility. In this case, that was Minister J.E. Banks. You just don't do that. You can only lobby as much as you can in hopes that it will bear fruit. But that
no,
is the environment in there. And
yeah,
it's it's totally different from outside, which it's key for platforms like this
right,
to be able to try and paint a picture without breaking confidentiality, but to let you know the realities of how it works.
right.
So
Well,
you
I
go ahead.
go ahead, go ahead.
So I'm trying my best to just say that it's easy to say Georgetown should have gotten this, Georgetown should have gotten that. But at the end of the day, single member constituency as well. For example, Prospect or Georgetown Central, let's say, had a mandate that one said they had to finish this park, that delivering that park was for the key for Georgetown Central. That has to remain his focus at that time to make sure that he was able to deliver along with their other ministerial responsibilities. You understand me? Put it
Right.
back personal. Let me speak to myself. What was the biggest outcry for Prospect? Let me keep the focus on myself because I don't want to implicate anybody else.
Right.
The biggest outcry was stormwater management. During my tenure, I fought tooth and nail. I almost got evicted from where I live because the residents were so upset under a natural disaster where we saved the greater Prospect by temporarily installing a pump. It does not long-term fix the solution of water management that has been spoken about for decades. But the people during my tenure cannot say that I was not able to put in a temporary system that for years people were saying they were being flooded. That did not happen. It didn't happen. That was based on a good working relationship between myself and the minister who was willing to help me. But I couldn't just go and demand pumps because I was the representative for Prospect without the support of the minister. My major concern and responsibility was two roles: managing home affairs and the Ministry of Health. But what people forget is, in addition to your ministerial responsibilities, you also have to deliver for the people. And if the people do not understand what that role entails, then they look at other things and say, why you're not good enough as a minister. Now, the pace in which things were addressed in all 19 constituencies depend on, yet again, the operational arm of the civil service, which are your civil servants. We know that we have flooding issues all over the island. We must admit that some are much worse than others. There's legislation that could address that. A lack thereof political will and the pace in which legislation can actually come to fruition that puts responsibility not only on developers as well as the government, that we work hand in hand to deal with some of these issues for any new developments. But again, as the Minister of Health, I couldn't demand pace for that piece of legislation because that fell under the remit of another minister who's also fighting to make sure that their constituency is taken care of. I want you to understand what I'm saying here, caller, and I hope that I'm being able to put a
No,
picture.
I understand exactly what you're saying, and I know enough about it, even though I haven't been in the room, but I know enough about it to say certain things can't get done without, majority agreeing. But I will say this to get off. Someone else may want to call in, but I will say this. I am simply just disappointed, that Georgetown, the entire district of Georgetown, and this is where this single member constituency has failed us, because if all members of the district don't get elected under a party, or they don't come together, like for instance, Georgetown had Georgetown Central elected, independently. We had other members that were for the progressives in the last administration. We had yourself, and then who did we have for? We had Alden. He was for McLaughlin. He was for the progressives also. And even though there were two ministers there, they were still not a completeness, and everyone being for the same party or the same membership. And for me, that created a division where the district did not get enough for value as it should have in the last administration that it could have gotten. And I will say again, this is no disrespect towards you and the previous other minister, and I only relate that because those were two ministerial positions. But I still say Georgetown, and like I said again, I wasn't in the room, but as someone who's on the ground every day, and people talk to me, and I talk to people, and someone who was, campaigning earlier this year to try and run for office, I met a lot of people, especially senior citizens. I know people that have had to move out of town when they've lived in town their entire lives because they have to move, or their place is uninhabitable, or they were renting and the landlords are raising rent or giving them notice so they could upkeep to renovate the place. And there were all sorts of situations, and it was such a heartbreak to say. And again, like I said, I'm not being disrespectful to anyone, but speaking from my experience, it is such a heartbreak and a disappointment to know that Georgetown couldn't get any affordable housing in 4 years. And I understand everything that you've shared, and I've spoken to other persons that have, knowledge, and pretty much are saying the same thing that you're saying, and a little bit different on different ends, right? But it is still a major disappointment to say that, not blaming you or not blaming the previous other minister, I'm just saying, because it was a collective government, that Georgetown was not the capital and the place where most of our seniors that made Georgetown as it is live, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have people that are sick, and people that move out of town and can't, it is too much to get into on here, but it is such a heartbreak to know that in 4 years, Georgetown wasn't given a priority to do any type of affordable housing. I was reliably also informed that there was a major...
Caller, I'm having some background I'm having some technical difficulties, so I'm going to try. I'm hoping that I don't lose anybody like yesterday. Hold on.
Yeah, so you can't hear me?
Hold on. It's not me. It's the system. Let's do this. It keeps buffering. So yeah, can you just wrap up for us just so I can? Yes, go ahead.
That's what I was about to do. Yeah. So I was also going to say that I was reliably informed that there was a well-to-do Caymanian who is willing to invest in affordable housing for seniors in not central Georgetown South. And the only mandate that developer had was, okay, I'll do this, but can government take over the maintenance and whatever? And that was rejected because government didn't feel that it could have whether afford, or they weren't willing to take on that task or whatever. So again, having known that information, again, that was still another disappointment. And again, I want to say that's where the single member constituency fails us too, because if Georgetown was how the district used to be, where before the one man, one vote came online, I am sure we would have had a different turnout, because everyone would have been, okay, I'm for Georgetown, so we all got to work collectively together and supported that. But anyway, I'll leave you with that.
Thank you very much.
It's been constructive. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. There we go. Thank you, Jim. Yeah, I had to reboot it. I don't know what's happening with the streaming. Thank you. We're back. I don't think I lost everyone, but this is what happened yesterday. So, the show is going to Yeah. Okay, Jim. Yeah. Thank you for telling me that. Good evening, caller. You're live.
Good evening, Miss Sabrina. How are
Hi.
things?
Fine. Thank you. We just lost some of
Um,
our Facebook people, but we're back.
yeah.
Go right ahead.
Um, I have been waiting on this conversation for a long time, but I know, as I have been told growing up in Kimberbride, that
Hmm.
um, in time, or as I say, in God's time.
Hmm.
And I want to say thank you. That's what I want to say,
Oh.
first of all. Um, we as humans can be humans, but sometimes us humans can be very
Hmm.
mean in certain ways. But I'm going to speak my mind, and I'm not going to insult anyone or anything here this evening. I think the the fact that you were in government before and you were a minister, and the fact that you were part of a party, it it breaks me to know that you were not offered even the smallest of positions in this new government. But I will just leave that there because in time, time takes care of everything.
Hmm.
That's what I was taught growing up in the brag. And time will take care of this too, as you have said, too many heads button and getting nowhere and can't proceed
Hmm.
with what is
The mandate of the
right
people.
to do
Hmm.
in the face of humanity and for the Caymanian people. Um, I I am going to say this. I've said it publicly before. I did not vote in the last election, and I held on to that for one fact: that for the last 20 years that I have voted, I have waited and I have waited and I have prayed and I have asked where and when and how would we get a group of individuals that would step up to the plate, whether it be parties, whether it be independent candidates running. It was tried once,
Hmm.
and there were too many, as I said before, there are too many chiefs and not enough Indians. And that's why that went that way. But when you have political interference from another party that wants to be in power and cannot understand that your time has come and it's the will of the Caymanian people that needs to come first,
Hmm.
foremost, and up front in your face
Hmm.
to let you have a reality check. If you look around in the Cayman Islands, I have said it before and I will say it again. We are outnumbered 1 to 10. It's not 1 to 3, it's 1 to 10.
Hmm.
I am sitting back here now, day after day, and I have seen changes come in. There are more changes come. But it still breaks me to know that we still have certain people that have been elected that seems to think that because of this amount of number, we were so sure we were getting to be government. And then you have a situation where less than 24 hours, two parties came together,
Hmm.
three independents came together. But it was not for the parties, nor was it for the independents. They all came together and they finally took, must have been a grand, great look at Cayman that evening, whatever they did.
Hmm.
They did it and said, the people have spoken.
Hmm.
And if change does not start to come now, what will be left
Hmm.
in 4 years' time? So I give hats off to everyone that has joined the government. And I can only hope and pray that this government will last the 4 years, that there will be no more fighting between one another. Because when you fight, you are only keeping us Caymanians down,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not right. Because we, the voters, just like me myself, that chose not to vote, I have been told so many times over the last 20 or 25 years that if you don't vote, you don't have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the last 20 or 25 years where I have voted? I didn't have a voice
Mm-hmm.
because no one was listening. You didn't listen then. So my choice not to vote was me personally.
Mm-hmm.
And I held on to that. Change is coming. There's a lot of changes, Miss Sabrina, that has to happen. And they all can't happen at once.
Mm-hmm.
But finally, someone somewhere in this big little room called the Cayman Islands has said, enough is enough, and we have to listen. We have to listen, and we have to do what is right for our people.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we as Caymanians cannot live in this country and reap the benefits of everything as the foreigners that come here to do it can, then who, I ask this question and I keep asking, who are we developing for?
Mm-hmm.
And where are we going? Because I will say this, the young generations coming up today are not the generations of mine and our forefathers and parents,
Mm-hmm.
where they would sit down and talk about something. If you said something to me and you are my good friend and I don't like the way you say
Right.
it, we would sit down and I would say, come over. Look, I can't sleep tonight because me and you had this disagreement.
Let's
And
hash
you
this out.
started to argue.
Mm-hmm.
You come over, I'm gonna cook your favorite dish for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna cook you a good pot of curry chicken
Mm-hmm.
with the tremendous. And you can come over and we can sit down. Excuse me, we're gonna sit down and we can talk, we can hash it out, and we be fine.
Mm-hmm.
The young generation today gets frustrated, gets angry. They're not going to do that.
Nope.
And I'm not one to entice or incite violence, but they will do it in a different manner.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be the training tools still for these generations. But if we, as politicians that get elected, are going to sit down after you've come together, you've formed a government, and you want to argue because this not being done, that not being done, you have to prioritize what is
And what you can
urgent
afford, what the country can
and
afford.
what the country can afford. It breaks my heart to know that money is being spent on a high school. I went through what is now the Lehman Scott High School, middle school and high school, and I graduated. But we don't do things to be people's pet projects, and that's what too much of pet projects have been done over the years,
Mm-hmm.
and the people, the Caymanian people, have been left behind. So I am sitting down and I'm praying that the changes will come.
Mm-hmm.
And like I say, change really has to come. And I hope it comes in the next 4 years where I can actually say when I go to the polls to vote, if I vote next 4 years, if I'm around, to say, look, I have seen the change,
Mm-hmm.
seen the changes, they are coming. I'm good with it.
Mm-hmm.
But we still must always hold our politicians accountable.
But caller, if I may,
Mhm.
what is your take for how
Mhm.
persons, like the article had alluded that, we have persons going into real estate. What is your take? Because I looked at some of the comments to see.
I said this. Go ahead.
I looked at some of the comments were saying that
Mhm.
should politicians, if they choose not to run for political office or so not get elected, which is why I had to discuss this today, that they should be almost like considered what areas they should actually go into. I can see it from both sides, but as a small island jurisdiction, that is posing some serious challenges because life after politics is real. You got to provide for your family. You still got to pay your bills. You're blackball. And
Mhm.
we have known in the past former politicians pretty much
Mhm.
have alluded to doing everything they can in their will to feed their family. Nothing wrong with becoming someone who's
Mhm.
selling fish on the road. But what I'm
Mhm.
saying is that speaks a lot of the jurisdiction when a former member of parliament has to resort like that because they're outcasts.
Well, I will say this. I
People have to do it, and they have to do something in order
yes,
to keep the lights on, just like everybody
yes.
else.
I could go down the road and say, well, the the article of the two ministers and the premier and the deputy premier, acting deputy premier, um, really you have to resort to go to do real estate? And then I looked at it in a different manner last night and I said, I would hope they have enough money that they can support their families.
Ma'am, let me
Um,
tell you the realities of life. And let me tell you
but
facts as a 4-year
it
person.
is so you do so much when you're in and you're
Yes,
left with
ma'am,
nothing.
there is
Yeah.
no money left. Your salary is done.
Hmm. Hmm.
You
Hmm.
barely have enough
Enough
to
to
take
keep
care
the
of
lights
your
on.
own because of the expectation of your
Of the people.
constituents.
Yeah.
And when you
And it
fail to do that, then you're
you
cursed
are
and you
hated.
are
And
then
oh,
removed.
yeah. And I look at it this way. I looked at it a different way. I says, well, maybe the two have enough money, but maybe they couldn't get their way. So maybe they think they can get their way this way by not. I look at it as some of the things that have been done under the the two
But what if it
one
was me
particular
then,
minister.
caller? What if it was me? What
I
if
would look
this
at it.
opportunity didn't present itself to me?
Mhm. I would look at it and say the same thing and say, look, all three, you included, you have your lights on.
Hmm.
I don't think we should ban them from certain
Certain,
types of jobs. I
right.
mean, that has gone way too far.
Exactly.
Um,
Which was the
hum-
impetus of this topic
yes,
today.
humility and humanity has to come at some point in our lives.
Hmm.
And yes, one was the premier that still carries respect, but I don't think we should.
Hmm.
Okay, Mannion.
Go.
We tend to shun our people before we get the true fact.
Hmm.
And we have to learn that we are our own worst enemy and we should not put someone down that has stood for political office just because they're not perfect and we all make mistakes and we all learn from life. But going to ban them from
Hmm.
certain jobs, no, I think that's gone too far.
Hmm.
Um, but it bears the question in mind, why then are they doing that?
Hmm. Well,
And it could be one of two reasons, or it might be, I've just gotten tired of politics
yeah,
too, and I want to do something else.
different. I mean,
It's just like you go back about the ballot box.
yeah.
I heard about that,
Hmm.
and I kept saying, why Miss Sabrina didn't do one? I said, well,
Nope.
whatever Miss Sabrina, why she didn't do it?
Nope.
She didn't do it
They
because
got
she
to
had a
live with
reason
that.
why.
But I forgive
And
them.
yeah, they have to live with it. And a
Hmm.
conscience
Hmm.
is the worst thing
Hmm.
to have something bothering you when you
I
go to
forgive
bed at night.
them. They freed me.
I smile and I keep smiling
Hmm.
because in this country, I never thought I would hear the leader get up and say, in Cayman, we say good morning.
Hmm.
In Cayman, we say thank you.
Hmm.
And in Cayman, we say excuse me. That set the tone right then and there. If you were Caymanian, you knew. I knew when I stood there that day when the government was being sworn in and come outside in the front of the House of Parliament. I knew where this was going to go. The people would be taken number one priority. It's just good to see. You see small little words that are said. They have big impact and big meanings. And if anyone that is Caymanian has not gotten it yet, we finally have a government that we can stand behind. They're not perfect. I'm not perfect. No one is. Only God Almighty and His Son Jesus Christ is. But we finally have a path going forward. And what we as individuals, as the voters, as the Caymanians of this country need to do now is get behind these leaders that have put themselves up for scrutiny and to be judged and to be criticized. We have to get behind them and say, look, we're grateful for what you are doing, and we're going to do our part to make sure that in the next 4 years, when whoever goes to the polls to vote for whoever chooses to run as a candidate, we have a clear message that these people are for Cayman, and maybe it will rub off into some others to realize that money is the root of all evil, and that if you fail your people, you also have failed you. You have failed your entire country. And we just have to get on this ball to say Cayman is for Caymanians, because we're told we have nowhere to go. But this is home, and I will tell people I have traveled extensively. I have seen poverty. I know what it is. I know what it looks like.
Right.
And Cayman has its poverty too. But we are blessed here. This is a gym.
Yes,
and we as Caymanians need to learn to respect one another more. We need to get behind our people, whether they falter or fall. We need to be the guiding rock. If you see something being done bad, open your mouth and say about it. This is not what you should be doing. What can be done to help?
Right.
But, a government is only as good as its people. And the people spoke, and the few have listened.
Yeah.
And I wish them all the well. But I'm going to leave you here with this.
Thank you, because we have two other callers on hold.
Yeah, a video off of YouTube. It's talking about how America is a bully, and it's a video about what Jamaica is doing, and it's saying that the Americans can no longer soon be able to just present themselves at the Jamaican airport in Jamaica without a visa, because how they put it was, we have to beg and wait for months and pay hundreds of dollars to get denied a U.S. visa. And we're giving Americans the right with their passport to walk into our country and buy beachfront property and do this. They're putting a 25% tax on tourist tax. They're going to do visas for Americans to come. They're not doing it to the UK citizens or the Canadian citizens. And what Jamaica has said is, you are either going to respect us, our heritage, and our culture, or you're not welcome here. And this I call it a immigration change revolution that is happening across the world, because it's happening in the United Kingdom also.
It's just not here. It's international. Yeah.
And I'm going to end here. The video says that America thinks that the Caribbean is their playground. And it says, we are not your playground. We are your neighbor. Respect us. I'm going to send you it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Likewise.
It's always good to see you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good evening, caller. You're live.
Good evening. I just touched the back end because my internet is actually giving problems, but I could not go without calling. Knowing where I've seen you come from, knowing what you gave to your island, your people, I would really, really not feel good about myself. One of the things that my people have to learn, they have to learn to appreciate people that is for their country. Forget where they come from, how they dress, who they are, who their mama and daddy is. Somebody that has the country at heart like you did is the people that we need to pay attention to. We need to put everything behind and look for those that see the future and want to provide a future for our children or grandchildren. I see the kids had nowhere to go in the summers. You were the first person that I see decide I have to have a summer camp for these kids that they have somewhere. Their moms don't need to stay home. You're going to take care of these kids. We're going to provide 3 meals, breakfast, lunch, and in the evening, the little snacks. Take them to places. Had no one to give you anything. You did it with the few people that you had around you. I hope you don't mind, but I've known when you have asked for your salary up front.
I've said it. I've asked salary advance.
A salary advance. I hope you don't mind. I know you had to ask for a salary advance to make sure these with the things that you promised them, and you didn't hear. And I say that to say this, that you will have to find a job because you didn't take nothing from anyone besides your salary. You didn't get cuts. You didn't do things that cuts were there. Many of them takes cuts. Many of them take things they shouldn't take. So the problem we have is a lot of time they're going to be put back in because honesty is really supposed to be the policy. But people these days, it's material things and all of that. It doesn't care about principle, morals, and that's what we were founded upon, We would rather have a pair of shoes and wash it every week. It's clean, it's good, instead of going to steal one or somebody give us something for us to do something wrong. We would take that one pair of shoe and keep it clean. And we felt good about ourselves. Many of them don't prosper after some because they take the money and they take it the wrong way. Besides taking it the wrong way, they go in the wrong places, they spend it the wrong way. At the end of the day, they have nothing. They prosecute you for getting a home. The paperwork was all out there. Everything was in the public eye. That's why they could go and find it. It was at the glass house right there at registry. You did it all legally. Nothing, but just to have something to say about you because they couldn't do anything else. You've been there 4 years and nobody could say, oh, she's dirty. Oh, she's taken from this one or that one. So they had to find a stigma for you. So the stigma was that you got this house and you in vain, whatever. You all did nothing. It's in the public domain. Everything you all did. And this is what hate does. This is what negativity do. Instead of building our country, islands, and it's not just Cayman, this is worldwide, but I'm talking about what I know. They destroy something that is good. They destroy somebody that wants the best. You've been out there contributing for years to the community, looking for nothing, taking nothing. Oh, years and years, what many has not done. You only see them when it's time for politics. You see everybody running around doing community services, and all of a sudden they're the shining light for everybody. After election is done, you don't see them. You were out there 14 or 18 years doing and looking for nothing, giving your sweat, your tears, your labor. These are the kind of people we need to represent us. You might not go back in there, but I hope that someone else that does, they will learn from these things and see. And, we would get smarter and realize that, one day when we have sell out everything that we have and there's nothing to go to, what are we going to do? Like the young lady said, people are starting to handle the situation different with America. Yes, they are. But you see, our hands are sort of tied. And who has I won't say whatever, but who have the backbone, let me say, to say, oh, we're going to do this. They're going to put it England in front because that's what we do. We're going to put something else in front. We can't do it because of this. I know other Caribbean countries that under England, and they have made choices that they made for their people. And we've got to start making choices, because when you don't stand for something,
you fall for anything.
Yes. And that's where many of us is today. What we're going through as Caymanians is because we go on like we're perfect and we don't want to talk loud because they're going to say, oh, big mouth, or you know her, and this is it. But when we're going to be ready to talk, we might have to take them out and go beg. So you better know to stand up instead of having to go beg, because begging to me is like, if you got health and strength, that's a little degrading for most of us. So to me, why don't we do it now when we have strength? When why don't we do it when we can? Why don't we embrace people like you that have been the first ones? They say, I'm going to put up a sign. It mightn't be as big as others, and that's how it is. Everybody's going to want to outdo the other one, definitely. But you were the first one to put up a sign that says enter prospect. I remember when they said they couldn't put sleeping police on Marina Drive because they have to go down to the marine, the boats, and they found every excuse. But you put them there. You put the speed bumps. Because by now they would have killed somebody on that road. They used to go down there 100 miles an hour. They wasn't caring. So why then you going to care if you put a speed bump that has to slow them down? You stood your grounds and you say, we have to put them down. You put them down, not just on the Marina Drive. You put them throughout your districts, right? And it's a safer place, and people have commended that it's so much better on these streets. Now, why do we change something that's working for us? Why don't we see if it's going to continue to work? So if you put in someone and you got 4 years and it's working, why am I going to change? I'll give them another 4 because there's some things in the manifesto that they didn't actually get to finish. But again, if they were thinking, if they were being rational, they would have said, well, we had COVID out of the not even 4 years, 3.5 years. And when COVID take nearly 2, they really, none of you all, not just you, had but 1 year and something to do, whatever you were doing. Can they go back and see how much you have accomplished?
It will never be told, caller. It will never be told. It's okay. That's fine.
No. Well, you see, that is why I'm here today, because I am telling a true story. And if anybody want to come and say what I say, let them challenge me, because I'm not afraid. Yeah? And I've never begged. I've helped you, and you have never heard me beg you one day, because I help because I see where your heart was, what you wanted to do, and what you were doing for us. And that's what I'm interested in, because I have kids and I have grandkids, and I'm interested in someone that's interested in my island. So you can hold your head proud anywhere you go. Cayman Island, anywhere, Jamaica, Africa, anywhere. Because you never take a dirty dollar.
Nope.
You never take a dirty dollar. And I can say that others have approached me and asked me if you want help. And you said, no, I'll do it on my own. And I say, that is why I stick with you. The reason I asked you, because I wanted to see your mindset also. So when I see your mindset, I know I was on the right road with you. And I continue to go with you to the end. And if you choose to run again, I will do the same journey with you again. I know you say you would not, but I'm just saying, because I found you worthy of sitting in that minister chair.
And I thank you, caller. I thank you so much, but that's a no.
Yes,
I found my purpose. I've found my purpose. I'm good.
You did. And the thing is, anything good, most of the time people don't want it. Why? Even a man, he have a good wife, and he go then he look for the last one in the bar. And he will leave his good, decent wife. You never understand human beings. A woman will have her beautiful hair and she will go and cut it off and put on weave and then it can't grow back. And she's saying, I can't. You know, sometimes we got to stop and think as human beings, what is worth? Is it worth this, worth that? And I want to thank you. I personally want to thank you for what you have did for Cayman and the community. And many tells me the same thing. They were so grateful that you was chosen for when you were chosen. And maybe today there's stability because you stabilized many things. The hospital, you went in there, you take it by the horn. It was a mess. There were so many things. And you were not afraid. And sometimes when you're not afraid, people is afraid of you. So they don't want you back because sometimes they're afraid of what you will say and do. But listen, keep putting your horn. Keep going. Keep doing your purpose because we all have a purpose on earth. You keep doing your purpose and God will see you through. You're not here for man. You're here because when God designate your destination, you need to take it. Some of us are afraid and we don't keep on the path. But by the grace of the Almighty God, I'm asking you to let God lead you, direct your path. And let me tell you, the world would see that Sabrina Turner has done what she had to do and stood her ground for these people of the Cayman Islands. You have a good evening.
Thank you
Keep
very
your
much.
head high. One love, always.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for I know we had another call that had another caller that was patched in. So I'll ask that caller. We're going into, well, not technically overtime because it's not September yet, but we're going to 7:00. Looks like again today. And I want to thank everyone for all of their feedback that they're giving me here on this platform. And to be honest with you, I want to thank your participation. Thank you for your participation as well. But the broader subject is, how do you navigate life in a small island state? And, you know, the challenges that we can see, not only here in Japan, but this is pretty much around the world. It is not unique to Cayman, where you would have politicians who, I got to start back. Instagram has just fallen off. Hold on a second, guys. This is around the world. Just let me get this link back up. Wonky. There we go. So Instagram should be back up now. Yeah. So pretty much former politicians here and definitely around the world. This is a huge challenge, and it is they're part of a larger issue that is common to us here. But the limited opportunities that presents itself here for us, because we are honestly a small island, everyone knows everybody. The smaller job market and fewer industries, many mean that career opportunities are actually more limited for persons like ourselves in seeking a new path, you know, after you're not elected or you decide not to run for political office. Now, the hatred that we can see, what is discussed, that is very obvious. And pretty much in a nutshell, for a politician in the Cayman Islands who does not get reelected, that can be quite a transformative change from coming from a highly, public office in an influential role to a more private, subdued person. But it doesn't mean that it should be the end of the road. And, you know, even though your financial stability and support mechanisms and all of that could change, the stigma that comes along with it, you hear it, you know. I remember the caller mentioned that I took a salary advance in order to do a back to school. That's a fact. That is a fact. And even though, you know, you have friends and close family members that helped you, I'm wondering if this is sustainable in order to appease your voters for what is expected. I was speaking to a former colleague of mine, and we were just pretty much bantering off each other and stating the $5,000 constituency allowance that every elected MP is given for the purpose to operate a constituency office. The same $5,000, my rent at Prospect Constituency 33 Marina Drive was $3,000 a month. That did not include water. It did not include light. It did not include office supplies. Comparison to where we're located, the rent in Georgetown, as we know, you not only have challenges in finding it, but would be higher than maybe some in the outer districts or even in the sister islands. The population size in which you're actually being able to service or having to serve is totally different. But then what happens to those MPs who don't have a political office? What happens to that $5,000? I can assure you, every month, more than $5,000 was spent to maintain the constituency office and the people of Prospect, whether or not they were satisfied. And it wasn't giving out money, because many a times people came with real challenges and real issues that the mechanism and the process from government either wasn't sufficient or it was just taking too long and life happened. And what do you do when that person comes to you with no light, no water? I personally recall turning on the lights of a constituent when my home called and asked if there was any utility works going on, not realizing mine was disconnected, but I made sure somebody else's was on. I remember pushing carts in supermarkets, making sure persons had food for their kids. And it was months. I did not know what it was like to push a cart for myself. So to tell you that we're all corrupt when you run for political service or for political office, I can stand here, sit here today on this podcast to demystify, to refute that, because I can speak for me. I gave myself, I gave up everything to give of service. And at that time, turning back the hands of time, I would do it again. And I would do it the same way, because I cannot be bought. I am not for sale. Not then, not now. And I will continue to use my voice, continue to use this platform to educate and inform the public. Because the more we educate, the more you get to understand the operations of government. And the more you understand and put some value and respect to the power of your vote, I hope that you will understand. If you are willing to sell your vote, you have agreed to be sold. Good evening, caller. You're live on Sabrina Speaks.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening. I had to get on this because I know what you were. I know what Ms. Joyce say is true. You know that I couldn't vote for you, but I was there every step.
From before, yes. From 2021. Mm-hmm.
You know that I stopped by you from the beginning. I told
Yes.
you I couldn't vote for you, but anytime my person wasn't having a meeting, you could call on me.
Yes.
And like I already told them, already on the show, I know where you come from. I know what you are. And like I say, if they try to buy you, they cannot pay for you no money in this world. On the other side, Archangel Russia couldn't pay for you. You were for honest thing. You got integrity and you got pride.
Mm-hmm.
But how it go, and it not who do the most, get the most. And I said, after you now get elected, and I'm not going to call the person name, but me and her were vouching for you, and we say that they should give you a position in some of the ministries or whatever. They should offer you a job, and I don't think you were that fair, and I can tell that from to the premier, to the whatever. I don't think that they treat you fair, and I don't blame you. Like I say, you know that you're over, but they say when one door is closed, and next one is open. And God is always great. God knows honest people from crooked people, and sometimes when one door is closed, a better one open. So I think it's not the end of the world, and you're in a better position. You don't need all, because like Mr. Joyce always said, and I say it, it's not politics, it's politics, because you're not got on your back. So don't worry. And when God's for you, no man can begin saying, like I say, I know where you come from. And to cut it short, I can give you a little, what I call it. And thank you very much. You deserve it. And don't, like I said, I know you're human, and I understand where you're coming from. And yes, when you do things like this, it do hurt, but you will get over it. You have to get over other things in times to come, and God can help us. So don't worry about it. You're on a better road. You're on the road to more success than what you probably would be as you're out there tickering and bickering.
Oh, yes.
And that's when the water pass and whatever. And yes, what you say, what help, I think the people of Prospect were very ungrateful, but I think what messed you up, but it's quit a business, the foods, and like I tell them. But the same thing they were saying about me, and I said, well, they quit because there wasn't corrupted people. They were trying to see things that wasn't going right, and they were trying to correct it. But then that's how it is. We pulling seesaw, one pulling this side, and that's the next side. You can't get no everybody got to come under the same umbrella, and that's what happened. So don't worry about it, child. God for you, God is great, and anytime. And I pray for you. I pray for everybody, and you're gonna make it. You're in a better position.
Thank you.
Come big.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. That was PTSD and deja vu with that cowbell and the horn. But yeah, I must say that there have been some cornerstones from 2021 in my life that have stayed with me throughout the entire journey, even though Miss Joyce Ann came practically in the middle of my political campaign. People were floored that we did not know each other. I used to see her pass when I used to live at Tropic Breeze and Tropical Gardens back in the earlier days. And I used to see this lady just driving her hand like this boy and chewing gum. And I was like, who is she? I didn't even know at the time that was Merling's sister. But for the relationships and bonds that I have made, not only on the ground, but also during my time, I'm going to be honest with you, I can't take that back. The respect that I now have in the community for being a person of integrity, despite that coming under even challenge and question for political reasons, because it was all lies. It just shows the terrain that we're in. And I would take nothing back from the way I conducted myself for the past 4 years. I share the feelings that everyone is feeling. I can't speak on behalf of my colleagues as to why. And in my closing, I will actually make it very clear that the purpose of this episode was today is to show the realities of life when it comes to surviving post-politics. But our environment pretty much can be so aggressive that your very own suffocate you when you have lost at the polls. And there's no one there to give you a hand up. And it's not that you're asking for anything, you're just bringing it to the attention that it is real post an election, especially even more challenging in a small island jurisdiction like ours. Understanding where political influence can even impact day-to-day operations of an organization. Because on the perception of things, if it appears as though, as what has been repeated here over today in this episode, it is unfair how I was treated. That's what people are being said. Nothing has been offered. What are organizations thinking? Is Sabrina that bad that not even her own wants her? Or is it really the play of politics? The play of politics because it is a coalition government? I don't know. But I know one thing's for certain. It will not change who I am. It will not stop me from having a platform like this. It will not make me lower my standards And it will definitely not change the foundation and the core of who I am, is that I am not for sale. So pretty much as I come to the end of today's episode of Sabrina Speaks, and the purpose of having this conversation is because it's real. Bottom line is, I could have been one of those real estate agents, and maybe I should try it. Maybe I should throw my hand in there because I have to eat too. I have to eat too. And what I want people to really look and realize where I went, even though I wasn't able to go in dissect area by area. But I thank the callers for weighing in. I thank everyone for their support, both in calls and definitely online. Your live caller. Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I know we're going to get to amen now, but Sabrina, I'm baffled. I don't know if it's just me or I'm really dumb and ignorant to all this, but what's wrong with being a real estate agent?
I don't know. I think it's from two sides of it, by perception. And this is, I don't know. The show was not about the article. The show was surviving post-politics. I can understand where it can be looked at with a sitting member of parliament having a part-time job, let's say in real estate. I can understand that because they're still being paid. They're still a representative. I'm not going into that specifics. I can just bear fruit and bear a realization that I am living a life post-politics and nobody is offering you anything. And if that presents itself, only speaking to the former speaker and colleague, not the one who's elected, so what? So what?
But that point, like, it seems like the general response is, oh my God, or whatever. I actually am glad that we have more Cayman selling our country.
Yeah,
I'm not the entourage of permit holders that use real estate companies for employment as.
But what would have been the case, caller? What would have been the case if, let's say, a position was offered within government then for the former speaker? They would have said, oh my gosh, why are they employing that person after they lost or decided to retire? You see what I'm saying? You damn if you do, you damn if you don't. And we're our worst enemies. Where is the balance? Where is the balance?
And don't.
Yeah, so politics has gotten that bad that you will see your own Caymanian pretty much suffocate because they either decide not to run for political office or they've lost at the polls.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Is that where we're going? Well, let me tell you something. That's going to change the persons that stand for political office.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Something to think about, for sure.
It is.
But anyway, yeah, I'm not going to make it go past 7 o'clock time. Have a good night.
Okay, likewise. Thank you for your contribution. Yeah, but as we explore and look at life, I hope I was able to give you a little glimpse into post-politics. But this position here is a blessing. I did take a few weeks off and really just try to recenter myself. And then reality strike. There's no life raft. Your life raft is yourself. And I'm here by the mercies of God. And I am so blessed for how well this space is going. And I honestly don't know what the next chapter for me looks like. I really don't know. What I have learned in myself is to just love and appreciate every moment. And the universe has provided for me the prayers of the unknown. And it's just strong willpower to continue to remain grounded and be true to yourself. But what will not change is who I am. And I am not for sale, no matter what. I apologize, but I hope you will understand why I have made it my personal decision that politics is not for me. So for the sake of this episode, no one has to be fearful of me contesting any other elections in the future. because I know where I belong. So there's no fear of that. But at the end of the day, everybody, like my former colleague and constituent and former speaker, who has chosen to retire, we all have families and mouths to feed. But I want to leave with everyone this evening with one final, or perhaps the most critical thought, that I hope I was able to speak about some of the challenge, the sudden change in identity. Well, financial adjustments, I could be very honest with you. My former life, the salary of an MP was nothing. It was a joke, in all honesty. And as a one-timer, upon retirement age, I may get $260 odd. Yeah, as pension, $200. So that's the reality. And I'm quite sure that in itself can go down into 2 history books. But woven into all of this is a deeper reality, Sabrina Speaks family. And is one that every person, to be honest, who has ever considered public service must also be able to confront. Now, politics here in our country and in many other places around the world comes with, and I said it earlier, this stigma. And it is so common. Yes, Connie, for 4 years, $200 odd. Yeah, $200 odd. Yeah, girl. And even though it's common and deeply unfair a narrative, this powerful stigma that says anyone who steps into the political arena must be corrupt. You must be in it for personal reasons or personal gains. But one thing for certain, that was never my agenda. It's not me. And this, my friends, is a stereotype that if we let it, it can totally poison our democracy. And I'm speaking from the heart right now. And it can actually deter very, very good people that we need most. And because the truth is that really a thriving democracy depends on good people, honest people, dedicated people, and resilient individuals who are willing to put their lives on hold. Let me repeat that. You literally put your entire life on hold and you open yourselves up to the public scrutiny for the sake of your community. That's not a complaint. That's a fact. But if we as a society simply roll out and roll over and let this narrative define our leaders, we are the ones who will ultimately lose. And that's why, or you may even ask why I say that. Because we discourage the next generation of doctors. We discourage the next generation of lawyers and teachers and business owners from ever even considering the path of public service. And I am telling you, it is a noble calling. This isn't a plea. Let me make that clear this evening. This episode of Sabrina Speaks is not a plea for sympathy or a request for a handout. It is a stark reminder to all of us that the decisions our elected leaders make today and the character of the people who make them will impact our children and our grandchildren. So let's stop, for God's sake, selling our votes. it's your money that they're using to buy your vote in the long run anyhow. So if you're allowing yourself to be bought, you, again, have just allowed yourself to be sold by your politician when they have to pay the piper. Because as I said earlier on, the person who pays the piper chooses the song. Allowing that narrative to be that you must be corrupt, or even saying that do it for a vote. An individual who feels that they're entering this arena for any other reason other than giving of service, then ladies and gentlemen, we really, really got to take stock of what the environment is like and the reality of what it is. So the expectations of those persons who are casting their vote is what really breeds desperate politicians to lower their standards, and some of us will not do that. So let's start to encourage good people to stand for political office, and let's demand accountability from them. And yes, but let's also give credit where it's due and recognize that the vast majority of our leaders are driven by genuine, sincere, and desire to serve. And if that changes to be something else, then we can only blame our voters, because if you're seeing it and you still vote for them, you take what you get. So let's change the narrative. Let's educate ourselves. Let's ask the right questions, and do not sell your vote. And in doing so, secure a better future for our Cayman Islands. I know that the messages are coming in. Yes, I thank you. Morning Star, Mir Star. Yes, Jim Norris, it is a pleasure to be here. You guys make it possible. And yes, Connie, you heard me right. Thank you, CE Banks. And yep, 200. Yep, one term. Yes, Lord, let Sabrina Turner, community activist, speak the truth loud and clear. And that's what I promise to actually bring here on this space. And I think it is very, very important for me to repeat that I am not asking, this show was not a plea for sympathy. No. You all not blind, and you ain't as dumb as you look, or they think you look. That's by no means saying people are dumb. What I'm saying, you're aware of what time the clock is ticking. So it has been a pleasure. I have gone over. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your comments. But together, we will stand strong. And Iva, yes, that can buy our Milo. I may have to bring the one from Mexico, but yeah, it can do it. But it was indeed bringing you, my pleasure to bring you another episode of Sabrina Speaks this evening. I hope that it was able to inform and enlighten you, giving you some kind of ideas that ain't nothing wrong. If my next path is selling real estate, I got to eat, because ain't nobody got no lifeboat for you post-politics. And worse, that terrain is even much more complex when you live in a small island jurisdiction like ours. Until next time, have a wonderful evening. That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, Cayman, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.